Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of In the Bag. We're back. Power Team's back. Brad, how you doing today, sir?
Good, man. It feels good to be back in the studio, getting along like a normal rotation of these episodes again. So it's a little crazy there for a few weeks, I'll be honest. But we're here. We're back. Thank you all for being patient. I also want to say, very humbling experience at USDGC. A ton of you came up and said hi to me and said, hey, we listen every week. And it was awesome. It was great to meet all of you and like put some faces, like, because, Robbie and I talk to this camera every week. We don't really see you. It's really cool to see you all out in public and shake your hand. But we appreciate all of you. Thanks for everyone for coming up and saying hi. We couldn't do this without you, so we really appreciate you.
Absolutely. We are, just continue to be grateful for you guys and everything you're doing with us. We have a fun episode. Like Brad mentioned, we have had a couple off weeks, and then I'll be back up in Lynchburg in a couple weeks. And so because of that, we're trying to pack in some like standard episodes here as we get going. So with that being said, we want to thank, of course, the sponsor who makes all of this possible, has been with us for so long, and that is Flippy Disc Golf. Flippy Disc Golf, your number one choice for disc golf apparel. They make fantastic options ranging all the way from their Soul Pro, which is more of a dry fit performance material, to these jerseys and the OG jersey. I don't know, does it have a name technically?
I don't know the technical name, and I should know that, but it's what you have on there, Robbie. It's more of a comfort fit, a softer material. They have the Soul Pro. They've got shorts. They have new gloves, which I'm very curious to try out. I don't know what that's all about. Aaron told me, and I'm like, boom, there they are. So we'll have to do a review of those, maybe a little one-off review on the podcast, because I'm just very curious above all. But yeah, if you have custom leagues coming up, hey, Christmas gift, maybe customize a jersey for your loved one that maybe reflects their favorite courses or teams or colors, whatever. You can do that with Flippy Disc Golf. Make sure you check out the link in the description to get some savings and some free shipping. Flippy, Aaron, we appreciate you all so much. Thank you, everything you do for us.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. I'm playing a tournament with the Swanky Disc Golf guys at the end of the month, and it's a doubles tournament. And because you can do such customization, everyone's players pack, you get a Flippy jersey. But because of the special customization, as long as you registered by a certain date, everyone's getting a custom like name piece on the back of their jersey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So super, super cool. Lots of options out there. Speaking of super, super cool people, we have a super cool guest who is not a stranger to the Foundation Podcast Network, but has not been on In the Bag. So should be a good time.
Interesting. All right, let's let him in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to In the Bag. He is now one of the few people that has crossed multiple Foundation podcasts who's not on staff at Foundation, Mr. Tyler Tulowitzki. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. The myth, the Robbie, and ABB. I am honored to be on today.
Come on. Now, Tyler, have you listened to In the Bag episodes in the past, or what's the vibe?
Yeah, I listen to it here and there. I'm not religious about it, but I do. I've heard at least half of what you guys put out.
Come on.
That's respectable.
We appreciate the honesty. And at this point, we know we're past episode 56. We're somewhere past episode
Allegedly.
56. That's the rumor going around. In our hearts, always episode 56. But that's quite a lot of content to consume for sure. So
congrats to you guys, though. That's like that's a full year now, pretty much, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
that's awesome.
We had an episode we recorded last week, and the people don't know this, but I got in there and I thought that I selected all the right stuff, and then Silas went to edit it and was like, "Robbie, you had the wrong mic selected," and I was like,
You even talked that episode up too. I was waiting for it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, with a little AMA and all that. So we'll have to. I will have to re-ask those questions, and if you're listening to this, be ready to like catch it up, because one day we'll do another one. So we'll do it here instead of on the Robbie C channel. We'll do it here. In the Bag, y'all get the exclusive inside look. So Tyler, we want our players to get to know you, and you and your game. So first question is super easy. How long have you been playing disc golf, man?
So it'll be a full 3 years at the end of this year.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. So you are end of like the COVID like window ish.
I am. I'm not I don't call myself a COVID player because they put a disc golf course in near my home. And so I asked my brother to buy me some discs for Christmas and let's learn this sport. And that's how I really got into it. It wasn't because of COVID, but it was in the middle of COVID, really.
I gotcha. No, that is a fair distinction. I wonder at what time do people will people have started playing disc golf that we won't say like, oh, you're a COVID golfer, right? Like, because if you started playing like summer 2020, COVID golfer, like no doubt, can't get away from it there. But yeah, like end of 2020, early 2021, are you just part of the boom?
I guess.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
I would say so.
So, anywho, very fascinating. So we put you in a field, Tyler, and we're like, all right, basket is X amount of feet away from you, whether it be on like nothing really standing in the way, wind's not doing anything crazy. How far out do you feel like you can throw to consistently reach the basket golf lines?
I would say 340 is a good estimate for me. 365, I can push it, but that's just like ripping open field.
Okay. Yeah. 365 is going to land within like 100 feet of an area down there. Solid. So that's backhand, I'm guessing?
Yeah. So like if I step up to a hole and it says 340, I'm knowing that, all right, cool, I can park this pretty comfortably.
Okay. Awesome. What about forehand?
Forehand gets about the same distance, to be honest. I'm a pretty far forehand player. So I can throw like 340, 345 with the right disc.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I just shot a video talking about this concept yesterday. So as I look at your bag, I'm seeing that I think there may be is it a stretch to say there are certain discs that are predominantly forehand discs for you?
Yeah. Or more like 75, 25 forehand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So that's distance. Let's talk putting green. We put you on the putting green, give you 10 putts from 15 feet, 10 putts from 25, and 10 putts from 40 feet. How many are you making at each station?
From 15, I'll just say 9 of 10. Okay. From 25, about 7 of 10. And from about, did you say 40 or 45?
40.
40, I'd say 2 for 10.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. When I first got into disc golf, that's all I did was putt nonstop because I come from the ball golf world and, if you're a good putter, you can score. And so I was like, all right, well, I can't throw for anything. So let's figure out this putting game.
That is the truth. I have not played traditional golf in like a year and a half. And my friends most of us are Alabama fans, and one of them is a Tennessee fan. So we always try to like hang out on the third Saturday in October. And they're two of them are like big golfers. And so they're like, Robbie, is that your return to golf? Is that day? So I could very much be playing, and I'm going to like walk in. I think literally the fastest club I'm going to bring is a 7-iron.
That's beautiful.
Ride.
There you go.
Embrace my own teaching in different golf. So
yep.
That'll be a good time. Okay. So Tyler, we're going to dive into your bag. We are going to be talking fairway drivers is our focus today.
Okay.
We asked questions before guests come on, like what area of your bag are you focusing on? Things like that. And so where I think this disc is going to slot in, I can see its possibility. It's going to depend on how a certain disc is flying for you, but how you described your disc golf journey in some notes, I think it is going to fit in, like it's going to have a spot. So
sure, I'm open to anything, man.
We're going to start. You want to start putters, Brad, or do you want to start drivers and then skip down and go back to putters? What's your vibe?
Let's do putters because I'm curious on a few things down there.
Okay, game on. So putters, we'll start with the 1-speeds. You've got a Berg and a Glitch.
I do. I've got both.
What's the vibe? What are they doing?
So when I first started playing disc golf, I come from the baseball world as well. So I tried really, really hard to figure out my forehand, and I was throwing a lot further forehand than I was backhand for a long time. So that Berg is more into my forehand upshot game. Now, I will admit, I used to have a soft zone for that spot to try to make it like a straight forehand shot, but it was just forcing what do you say, a square peg in a round hole. So the berg is relatively new, but I'm working on it and it's growing on me. And when you connect in the right way with the forehand, it's beautiful. So the glitch that's my understable backhanded shot. So that disc it does magical things in the sense that you could have this, like, if you're standing up forehand right-handed and the basket is almost behind you in a sense, like off to the right, you can throw it sky Annie and it will drift all the way back. And it's an incredible disc where you can really manipulate it to do anything you want. I just put it in the bag because when it first came out, I wanted to have a warm-up disc, but I found myself really pulling it out and using it for more an understable, like putter shot instead.
That I could not agree more. And I think that people who are willing to commit to using it for a warm-up shot, the first time that you take it on the course and you're like, oh, I threw this like 10 or 15 times in a warm-up.
Right.
It'll fill that slot real fast. Because I can imagine this, now that you know it can do that shot, when you're warming up, you probably can throw some like fun trick shots to your friend to get even that Sky Annie warmed up.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I know there's a Berg versus Glitch war they talk about all the time, but it's worked out for me. I love both, so I'm that guy.
Yeah, the Berg is so fascinating. Did you get to play with Addison during Hyzer Club Championships?
I didn't play it. Oh, never mind. I thought you were talking
Sorry.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw.
Okay. So did you see him throw the Berg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Okay, so what's fascinating about this is because I've been a big polecat versus. Like, I throw my polecat into this mix. And Addison was like, I don't think that the polecat can handle the torque that I want to put on the Berg. And Addison's like a power forehand thrower. This man's throwing like 450, 500-foot forehands. Like, nasty. And so he pulls that Berg out on like 280, 300-foot holes, and he is just slamming into it. And it's like holding a little bit of Anheuser the whole time. So it is definitely causing me to rethink. And Tyler, someone who bags it, you let me know. I think it does get lumped in with this glitch in the polecat and these like floaty, understable approach discs. And it feels like that's just not what the Berg is.
I feel like the Berg's in its own category, kind of. Not that it's like so unique, just like it's different from the glitch in the polecat. And even like the Beetle and some of these other like lid type discs that are becoming popular. I'd almost put the Berg in like the Rhino category. Would that make sense? And like the Armadillo, like those are all kind of like have a little bit of stability to them, so they can handle some torque. Maybe I'm wrong.
The Berg really can handle the forehand shot. That's what I like about it. Now I do have to really focus on keeping it on a Hyzer because I can turn my wrist and throw Annie. That's what I'm figuring out right now. But the Berg handles some forehand torque. That's why I like it.
Yeah. What plastic is your Berg in?
Ooh, right now I think it's like that K1 soft. So I don't love that, but I'm working on getting the premium plastic one.
Yeah. So
but it's great. It's great in the woods. When you've got some debris on the ground, it won't slide. You can throw it right at the basket and it'll sit an egg.
Yeah. I'd be curious for you playing up in like the Northeast area as winter starts approaching and whatnot. Does plastic choice change for you? Just because as the things get colder, they get slicker?
Not really. I will say, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I have a lot of G-Star plastic in my distance drivers. I will switch to those, but that's the reason why I don't have any like really overstable plastic discs, because I know in the wintertime, I'm going to need some stuff that I can work in my hand a little bit. That's why I like to stick to that, like Star plastic kind of like.
Okay. Yeah, avoiding the candies and the like translucent stuff and all that. Okay. Yeah. So I see you have a Marvel listed in your bag from Birdie Disc Golf Supply.
Yeah.
The Marvel you have as approach right next to it.
Right.
So you don't putt with Marvels. I'm guessing.
I didn't put my putting putters in here. Okay. So I can let you know what that is in a minute. But the Marvel is Birdie is just right up the street from me, and so. A lot of tournaments around here are run by Birdie. So when last year when Birdie made their Marvel and Premium plastic, I got it, and I didn't think anything of it because I didn't know how to throw a putter then. But the more I started getting into throwing putters, it is an incredible throwing putter. It is such a far disc that controls. It doesn't float on you and it doesn't die. So it's a really, really great throwing putter, and I love it so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I will be honest. I've not thrown the Marvel. Brad?
I've putt with one in the shop, but that's all the farther I've gotten with one. So I've never thrown one.
I used to throw a P2, and it kind of like you can go back and forth, but the Marvel has like it feels a little like wider and skinnier. The P2 just feels too deep for my hands. So that's what I love about the Marvel. It's not too deep, and it feels like it's wider, so it can I can really grip it, and it has like an edge to it, and I really like that.
Okay. Fascinating. Yeah. It's a funny world, the people that like throw the P2s and whatnot they love it for a long time. And then I feel like if you ever experiment away from it, like the P2 suddenly coming back to it is just, the love story is suddenly very hard to grasp onto.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So let's talk about the A2, because I think the A2 is one of Prodigy's most overlooked discs.
I would also
100%. 100%.
It is like, people talk about approach discs and all that, and I have said to people multiple times, like, if I were to go back and I were to pick, like, Pigs just disappeared, the A2 is near the top of my list of like, I think I could see me throwing that one.
Yeah.
So what's the A2 do for you? Sell the people on the A2.
Well, first off, oh my gosh, Alden Harris's new stamp is sick on the A2, dude.
Yeah.
So cool. So one thing I will say about the A2 is that I had floated around and changed around to multiple forehand and upshot discs. I'm not a 60-40 forehand approach. It's just, I like seeing the basket. It's easy. I can stand still. So I wanted something that I could like rip on a little bit, and it would just absolutely just like want to go, if I'm throwing forehand, it'll want to go right. Like it'll want to just die at the basket. And so I had gone on Reddit. I had heard many things. And the last disc I had in that slot was a, Star Toro, which I did love that disc, but I beat it in, and then it started getting too straight on me, and I didn't love that. So went on Reddit, searched most overstable approach disc that's reasonable, and they say get a 500 plastic A2. So it's a 500 plastic A2, and you can just rip it and just know safely that thing is coming back to the right. I've thrown in with that disc a couple times. It's an awesome disc. It just, you know what it's going to do every single time. There's no question about it. And so to know on an approach game what the disc is going to do every time, that is gold.
Mm-hmm.
I completely. Have you so you have yours in 500. Have you messed around with the A2 and any other plastics just as a like experiment?
I haven't yet, but I've thought about wanting to get a soft one and then a regular 300 plastic one, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. The 350, I think, is what their base is, 300 or 350. I can't tell what the difference is. I'm trying to remember. There is a difference, but I don't know what it is. I'd be very curious if you used one of those just in your, like, substitute it out for your 500 for a couple of weeks and let that thing get the war scars that it needs.
Yeah, I've thought about it.
And then see how that holds up to what you're doing with the Burke.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. It's good point. Good point.
A little cycling, especially if you like how that feels in your hand, because it's a sharp.
It's sharp, yeah.
But I'm okay with that to a degree, because I think the A2s, especially the base plastic ones, do get a little puddle toppy.
Yeah.
After you've used them for a little bit, just because that wing is so pronounced.
Yeah. Like I've thrown it on an Hyzer and it comes back, and people are like, what is that disc? Like they have to know what it is. And I tell them 500, it's actually Vino's edition.
Okay.
Vino's 500 A2. So
yeah,
dude,
those are nice.
I have one of the 750 plastic, and that thing is a justice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I just wish it could go a little further sometimes, but it's an amazing disc. I really can't complain. I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
So the Malta, is there any overlap there for you? Are you just throwing the Malta on your backhand only, or are you forehanding it?
I've tried to throw Malta on a forehand, and it actually turns over on me. So it can't handle the torque. So at straight backhand, that's like throwing it straight, and it goes straight pretty far, and then it dumps really hard at the end. So it doesn't even go gradual fade. It's like straight and then dump.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's what I like. That's what I like out of that backhand.
Yeah, Malta's a tricky mold, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you either like are okay with a Malta. I don't know anyone that like loves a Malta per se. But I think a lot of people like it for that like dumpy flight, maybe. Yeah. It's a tricky disc. And then, like even in the other different plastics, you're still, I mean, what I've found with experimenting with a few of them, you're still getting that like dumpy flight. So I guess it's more of like, to me, I know it's a 5-speed. I think it's like my wife uses them and she treats it more like an approach disc, less of like a mid-range.
Yeah, totally.
Because of that.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that.
Yeah, I could see. I'd be very curious, like if you go to the top pros, how many of them bag the Malta versus like the Drone or the Wasp?
Yeah,
or
not
things
many.
like that.
Yeah,
Even Paul himself, I'd be curious if he has them in his bag, what does he use them for? Because like I bet the pros, if you get enough power on it, I bet it loses that like even that dumpy flight. I feel like it probably just finishes, but at that point you're like, I'll just throw a buzz.
Yeah.
So
I used to throw a method as well. That's a 5503, but that would like jump on me too much. I know that's like a ball golf term. That means like it'll like take off on you further than you think. So I wanted something that was dialed back a little bit more, and that's why I went Malta instead.
I like it. So you do throw a buzz though. You got a buzz and a mind bender.
I do.
What's the difference between those two for you?
Yeah. So the buzz is, I call it like the T-bird of mid-ranges for me, right? So it goes straight very far too. I have the CT Foundation stamp one, the Photon.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
That thing is so stiff, by the way. I don't know if that thing will ever get beat, like flimsy. That thing is so stiff, but it bombs and then it finishes at the end for me. It's not gradual. Like it will finish at the end. And so I love that one. And then the Mind Bender, that's a straight baby Hyzer, straight. It is never going to fade on me. It will just go to the ground, right? Exactly how I throw it. So that's that difference. And I really like to flirt with those two different shots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fascinating.
But the Mind Bender, you put on a little Annie and that thing goes, and you're never seeing that. That's gone for Aaron, gone forever, Aaron Hernandez. So
yeah, I used to bag the Mind Bender, and I kind of had that. It was like, I wouldn't call it touchy, but if you mess up, you're going to mess up with that. And also when I worked the Hexen and the Lobster, it was like the two poles of that flight. So I just kind of like went with, I'm throwing more mid ranges now. So I think that's what kind of bumped it out eventually for me. And then, it's never fun. I tend to fall into the groove of liking like rare discs or ones that are limited, and then I'm just not into that game of like, well, I better buy like 7 of these because they're never going to be made again.
I know. I've got 2 more Mind Benders just in case, because I love the disc. I really tried to not bag it, but I love it. So it's just so like, I know every time baby Hyzer, it's going straight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, y'all are talking to a guy that I don't throw Bradley Williams pigs. So the only pigs that I'm throwing are like Ricky picks, and those are
that's tough.
Those are never happening again. So it's a good time. I'm with you on the limited run. My final question on mids, Tyler, is you only bag. We'll say you bag 3.5 because the A series is designed to be a bridge between mids and putters. Mm-hmm. So we'll say 3.5. Why only 3.5?
I don't want to overcomplicate the mid ranges for me. I want to keep it very simple. I think when I try to translate disc golf to ball golf, and ball golf, 250 and in to me in disc golf feet wise is like 150 in, for like ball golf. Like golfers know, like that's your scoring. We call that the scoring yardage, right? We're going to score our best if we can hit really good shots in that range. And so I like to simplify as much as possible and knowing, okay, there's a moment where I see the shot, I know what disc I'm using, and I'm going to throw that disc. And I just don't want to overcomplicate mids. Like I can manipulate the disc if I need to. So that's why I've kind of gone in that range.
I appreciate that a lot. Like that is a valid thing that lots of people probably should embrace.
I think there's two sides too, right? There's like simplifying your disc selection and then manipulating the disc, and then there's simplifying your form so you're only throwing like one type of shot and then letting the discs have different flights. And I would say, Tyler, I'm probably the opposite side of the fence now. I didn't used to be, but now I'm kind of like, okay, but I'm working on my form, so I want it to be more consistent. And I probably will end up somewhere in the middle, I'd imagine. But yeah, I think, and because I know Trevor's very much like that. He's like, hey, I just want to like throw all these like flat-ish, and then I want the disc to do their work, not me. And then Hunter's like, let me see what angle I can throw this on. So yeah, that's interesting just thinking about that. And I think probably people in our, I'm going to call it age range for disc golf, are probably all in that maybe variant where we're all kind of splitting off one way or the other at the moment, I would guess.
Yeah, I was actually kind of listening to you guys when you guys first started about trying to simplify your bag. And so like, I don't think you guys ever did what I suggested or talked about what I suggested, but I took those episodes as all right, what can I do to make it so you did say this in an episode, when you get up to a shot, you don't want to have multiple discs. You're thinking about that overlap. So I didn't want to have that. And so that's what I did with my mid-range game and down.
Yeah. And it looks like it's made its way. Because that, and so I think if we were to like, as big mold minimalists here on the show and trying to dial in things, I think that's where you end up with like a one day, but your buzz could beat in enough to be like, okay, I can't find any more mind benders. So a really beat in buzz falls into that slot and a new buzz falls into the original slot, whatever it may be. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with, you love the mind bender, you love how it feels in your hand, it accomplishes multiple shots, keep riding with it. Just like the A2 to the Berg shift. The Berg doesn't have to leave. Yeah. It's doing its thing. And what I like about the idea of cycling is that, especially when you cycle into a slot like this, like for me, a dune and a hex, depending on the plastic hex you're throwing, fly very similar off the shelf. But I know that I have an origin in my bag that I really want to be like, I want my dune to fly like an origin kind of a deal. So I can see it on its way to that flight. But if I ever lose a dune and I don't have one seasoned in, you're good to go. If you decide to go with the A2 shift and you lose the bad A or the great A2, the Berg's ready to go. I
will say, I just realized something, and I apologize. I actually bag a Meteor as well.
Okay.
So that would make more sense for you guys. So I do have that more throw it flat and I need it to go right disc. I do have that in the back. I don't throw it as often. Totally. But I do have it there. So it's like, all right, got to throw it backhand, got to go right.
Yeah, that makes a lot, because that was my question to you, is like, well, what are you getting your understable flight out of? And I was going to ask about the Leopard 3 later. We'll get to that in the middle of the episode, but okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Sorry about that. I just realized that just looking at my bag that I gave you.
Honestly, what I was assuming was, when you need to get right as someone with a developed forehand, that you just throw forehand instead of the turnover.
I usually do, but there is some in the woods here. You just can't always throw forehand. You have to have that slow turnover shot.
Man, what a wild world when people start to develop that, like to have both in your arsenal. So you're not just like, it's not a forehand hole, but I gotta get right. Here we go.
It's taken a while, but I'm there now.
Yeah, no, that is hole 2 here in town at Civitan, John Lemaster Civitan Park. I struggled on it mightily for years with a really good forehand. And then I played with an older gentleman and he was like, why are you throwing forehand? It's a turnover putter. I was like, what?
Yep.
And I threw it and suddenly that hole was unlocked. Easy peasy. So, okay, so let's talk distance drivers. Okay. I'm going to throw in your Beast and your Avenger SS. Into the distance driver category.
Yep, that's how I use them.
Let's start with those two. Okay. Beast and the Avenger SS, what are they doing for you?
Avenger SS is just really understable. That's that, left to right movement with a backhand. That's also like really strong Hyzer flip in the woods. shot, but it's not really controlled. That's like if I'm trying to push some more distance, that's what that Avenger SS is for. And the Beast is a newer disc to the bag in the last couple months. That is a little bit more Hyzer, a little bit stronger of a push. So it's easier to throw a Hyzer flip with the Beast than it is the Avenger SS. The Beast is champion plastic, so I can't really get it to go right and stay right. So I don't know if I'm going to make a choice on, do I keep one or do I keep both? But they're both in the bag at the moment.
Okay. Fascinating. And I will be honest, we're going to complicate the process.
Yep.
With what we're going to suggest as well.
Can't wait.
It could be neither. Honestly, as I think about these two discs and what we've suggested. Okay, so in the notes that you sent me, I would love for the people to kind of be brought into that a little bit.
Okay.
But let's talk about your rates.
Okay.
Because it was a process to get to two races in the bag. Walk us through that process.
So when I first got in the disc golf, my first distance driver was a Wraith, and then that was more like I was throwing those forehand as predominantly. And then as we progressed, we got into some different distance drivers, and then the biggest jump has then it was, hey, I want to throw a Grace, because that was like the hot ticket item, right? So I opened up a magazine. I said, who is this lady? And then I said, all right, let's see what we can do. So then I got a Grace. Liked it, but I didn't love it. And then I was messing around with some numbers, and I noticed that the Enigma had the same numbers as a Grace, but with a sharper edge. So I switched to an Enigma. So then I started throwing the Enigma, but that would get a little flippy on me. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess the next best move would be to a DD3 and S-line plastic. And it's a phenomenal disc. I love the S-Line DD3. It goes so far. It does a great Hyzer flip, and it has a very, very strong bite. But I just felt like I was in tournaments, I was losing control when I needed to just throw a good shot and be confident. So I was like, let me try these Wraiths, and let me go back to those. And I was doing a bunch of field work with all my disc, and the Wraith, I felt like I was losing us a little bit of distance, not much, but I felt like I could put a Wraith in my hand and control it so much easier. And so that's where I finally have gotten to with the Wraith. It's a very good control distance driver that I'm very confident in, and I want to have that in my hand. And I can lose about 10, 15 feet and be okay with it.
Yeah. I would always rather have a controlled 10 to 15 than, because 10 to 15 at 300 something feet away from you, we'll say 10 to 15 feet at 350 feet away. Especially if I'm in the woods or I'm approaching the woods, suddenly that's me hitting my gap or me missing my gap.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So,
and that adjustment was with more the backhand. As my backhand developed, right when I got the Grace, I would say my backhand was pretty decently developed. And then I went to the DD3 as I could throw about the same distance I can throw now, which is 340. And that's when I went back to the Wraith.
Okay. Awesome. So right above it, you're talking about DD3s, you've got a Cloudbreaker and a Destroyer in the bag.
Yeah.
Are those the 75, 25, forehand, backhand?
So not exactly. The Cloudbreaker, yes.
Okay.
The Destroyer is open field. I want to get that distance because the Destroyer is a 167 gram. So it's lighter. So it'll do the flight that my Race do, but it'll go further. So that's what I have that in the bag for. And it's an incredible disc. I love it. I just don't feel like I can fully control the Destroyer as much as the Race. So that's why I never made the full switch to a Destroyer. The Cloudbreaker is an X-out Cloudbreaker, very, very overstable Cloudbreaker. And so that is one where I can bomb forehands with that disc. And I'll go to it for a backhand if I want a little bit more like a force or more of like an old PD2 type of flight with my backhand, where I know that this is like 90% of then there's like a 90% chance it's not going to turn over.
Okay. I believe it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. So the Nuke OS then, flex forehands and really overstable backhands?
Yeah, I mean, there is some open fielded courses up here, and it gets really windy in those areas. And if I need something that I know absolutely will not turn over on me. So I also I've been messing around with the little Nuke OS flex line approach shots too, where I need that giant woods S shot to get through some trees.
Yeah.
I've been working on that shot for the last several months. And so I do like having that in the bag for that disc as well.
Have you tried throwing some skip shots with your Nuke OS?
I have. It's awesome. Huge skips.
That is someone will look at my bag and they'll be like, why do you have that Halo Calvin in there? You're not that big. And I'm like, first off, that's rude. Second, yes, I am on a forehand. And it's you're low in the woods and you throw that massive just shoo. And then everyone looks at you like, wow, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
Right.
It's
That's
awesome.
what we do. Okay, so let's talk fairways. Brad, unless you got any questions on distance drivers.
I think that all makes sense. And you're really feeling like you don't need. This is just maybe an assumption, but you're not having to throw a ton of understable backhands, obviously, because of your forehand. So that makes sense that there's not a lot of discs there on the right side of the graph and the higher speeds.
Mm-hmm.
So you're wanting to way more trust your forehand on those longer shots than a turnover.
For sure.
So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I get that as well. That's when someone comes in. I have a Wraith personally that I can put down as a roller if needed. I shot a video yesterday where I accidentally put it down as a roller because it is that flippy. But I would not say that I have it in my bag as a roller disc.
Right. My pink one is like that too. Yeah, that pink one is my OG. So it's been in the bag it's been beat up. So it really flips.
Yeah, if you ever get your chance to get your hands on for some reason, whatever run of Wraiths the star Wraiths that they have for team members, they are all so flippy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find a team stamped Wraith, it's a flip monster. Easy peasy, especially if it's red. Okay, so let's talk fairway drivers. You've got moving the Beast and the Avenger up into the fairway slot. You have 4 fairway drivers in the bag.
Yep.
We'll start with the Firebirds. You got a Marweed and a Sexton in there. What year is your Sexton?
That's a 21.
Okay. Great run.
Yeah. It's the best one in my opinion, other than the 17.
Yeah. And the most readily available too.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
You're missing out if you don't have that in your bag. If you're a forehand player and you don't have that bag, you're missing out because if you beat it in just a little bit, it can flip up and it's just so straight. It's nasty in the woods.
Yeah. And it still fades. That's the thing is it goes straight and then all of a sudden it's all right, I'm done.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I'm with you. So that's what your Sexton does. What's your Marweed do?
It's just more overstable. It pushes straight, but it's not really going to turn. It's never going to turn over. I mean, it can handle the torque. So it's his Glow one, the Team Series one, and it's awesome. I love that thing, man. I just know what it's going to do every time, and it's going to fade at the end, of course.
That's awesome. So are you throwing? If you have to throw a backhand, is there one that you prefer to throw the backhand with, or will you throw a backhand with both, depending on the shot shape?
I love throwing the Sexton backhand because I know it's going to do kind of like what the Buzz does a little bit. It goes really straight for a long time, and I know it's going to finish at the very end. So it's a really reliable disc if I need to know that this is going to finish left. So it's a good backhand disc. Great one.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to jump the TL3, Brad, because that feels like we're going to discuss it leading in. Does that seem right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting disc, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead, and listeners who throw the TL3, if there is a crowd of Innova throwers that gets so offended so fast, it's people who like a TL3.
Yep.
There is something, maybe because they've been fighting eagles and T-birds their whole life with the TL3, and they're like, bruh, don't you say a bad thing about. I'm not gonna say anything bad about the TL3. I'm gonna let Tyler do that. So we're gonna talk about the Leopard 3.
Okay.
Leopard 3 is a disc that I will go ahead and tell you, notoriously, I do not have a good reputation with the Leopard 3.
Wow.
Not the TL3. The Leopard 3 and I not friends.
Don't get along.
So
Not meant to be.
What's the Leopard 3 do for you?
It's a great control, less speed, big Hyzer flip disc in the woods. Very comfortable disc. I've had it in the bag for a long time. I've jumped back and forth to different plastics, but it's a Star plastic one. I love it. It's actually a little bit lighter of a disc too, that I've chosen. And if I need something also to go right, I know that disc is going to go right. I don't know. I really can't. It's like when you hold it and it's like, love at first sight. That's just how I've tried other discs. I've tried to go away from it and I can't. So that's just what that disc does. And I just love it. It stayed in the bag.
Nothing wrong with it. If it's good, what do we say? Keep it in the bag.
Keep it in the bag.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So with that being, it sounds like we have our extremes covered here. Leopard 3, extreme understable. Sexton's kind of like, it's on the door to really overstable, but it's like, it's the gatekeeper. Hey guys, you want to come hang out? Come on.
Right.
It'll keep you straight, literally. So the Marweed extreme, that side. So what's the TL3 do? Does it really live in the middle?
It's actually not really in the middle. And by the way, I got to show it off real quick. This is my TL3. Check this bad boy out.
Oh heck baby. Yeah. You're in the right place.
Yep.
Hey, like that?
Save
Love
space.
Love it.
Yeah, well, that definitely needs to stay in the back.
Yeah. Shout out to my brother. He got it from me. So shout out to Nathan Tulowitzki, the real G. So this disc is fascinating, right? The flight numbers on the disc is 8.4 minus 1 and 1. Okay. Yep. It's a 175 gram, so very heavy. And it is a more overstable T-Bird.
Really?
Does not do any type of understable things at all. And so when I got it and I started throwing it, I was like, oh, you know what? I just don't have the arm speed yet. And this is like a year and a half ago. So I was maxing 300 off the tee. Now I'm maxing 340, 350, 360. And this thing will go so straight. It's so controlled. It's a great control disc, but it does not go to the right ever. And it finishes at the end really hard. I cannot explain it, except for maybe it's because of the die that's on it. It's a 175, but it won't go straight and stay straight. It won't stay straight. Like it'll start off straight, but I know it'll finish. Like even into a headwind, it finishes. I can't explain it. So it doesn't do what I thought it was going to do, but I have some use for it when I want a controlled, 300-foot shot. So it fills that slot, but I don't have anything that goes straight and stays straight.
So it sounds like it's flirting with your Sexton a little bit.
Yes, but I feel, yeah. I haven't taken the two and just thrown them like for a half hour to see much of a difference. But yeah, that's actually a good point. I haven't really compared the two.
Huh. Okay. Well, there's food for thought for you there. That makes me feel really good, hopefully, about what we suggested then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I feel like we're definitely onto something.
Okay.
That's nothing makes me happier than where we're like, all right, I can see where the possibility is, but man, if this disc is like a Griffin disc for him, then we're going to have a hard time getting a suggestion to like actually.
Or a Charizard disc
or a Charizard disc. But Charizard definitely is not competing with the two things that we suggested today.
No.
So, Brad, what'd you throw today?
All right. So I threw a Shadowfax today from Prodigy, and I threw the new Cicada from Discraft. So very excited. I already threw the Cicada through the test flight one. So the first run was about the same. I would say maybe it's not as understable as that test flight one that I threw, but that's not a bad thing in our scenario. And the Shadowfax, I've wanted to throw it for a long time. It just feels so good. And I love the stamp. I love everything about it.
Yeah. As a big, because Shadowfax obviously referring to Lord of the Rings, right? Like,
of course.
That we got to believe that. Because what was the first one that Kale did that was Neverending Story? I don't know. You guys can let us know in the comments. But there's another stamp.
Falcor.
Falcor. Yeah. So Yeah, because I had a trivia question come up and they were like, "What's the name of the dog?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a Prodigy disc. I
Yeah.
know it is." So I just walked through all the names. It's not
I
a
will.
Reverb. It's not an A7.
Yeah. Not a D1.
Um,
So I will
yeah.
say, just as a spoiler, I do not have a clear favorite today.
Okay. That's what we like to hear. So let's walk through the checklist. Hand feel. How are they feeling? Because they're not the same speed, I don't think.
No, they're not. The Cicada is a 7-speed, and then the Falcor is a 9-speed. Or sorry, the Shadowfax is a 9-speed, which is good because I'm a 7-speed, 9-speed guy. I'm not typically an 8-speed guy, although I mean I think the Jackalopes are not an 8-speed. But for whatever it's worth, I tend to like those 2 speeds a little bit better because I like an FD, and then I like a Raptor or a Phoenix. Hand feel, they both feel great. I did throw the Cicada and it's in Z. The Shadowfax is in 500, which is a little bit more gummy. I will say, no clear winner in feel. They both feel good. This is a Chinese made Prodigy, so you don't have the flashing issues. It's a lot more comfortable. There's no sharp edges. So I think both hand feel great to me. I would say if I had to give a winner, maybe the Shadowfax, like a slight edge.
Okay. I mean, I do love the feel of that. I mean, it feels really bad to be like the Chinese. But I mean, the Chinese made Prodigy is really good. Like I like it a lot.
Yeah, they have more. I think they just have more control over the manufacturing and the molds, and it really shows in like all of their stuff that's from their factory over there. It all feels really great.
Yeah. Okay. So, you take it out to the field. What were you, like you said, you'd already thrown the Cicada. So what kind of lines were you trying to test it on out in the field?
I just wanted to throw them hard and flat to see what they were going to do. And both of them have like the slide. Both of them, if you just like look at them, you're like, oh, these are going to be really like turn a lot, especially like the Shadowfax has a -2 turn. I don't think either one of them, for me anyway, don't turn that heavy. I mean, they will like, if you give them enough Hyzer, they'll flip up to flat, or if you hit them flat, they'll turn a little bit. But I don't have to worry about either one of them like rolling or really going right. It's just like it's like they're teasing you, like, oh, I can be encouraged to go right if you really want me to, but they're not just going to like arbitrarily go that way if you like are paying attention and get a good release.
Love that.
Okay. That's the goal. That's the dream that we're looking for, especially seeing the extremes there. So, did you try, you said they got a little bit of stand up on, like if you threw some Hyzer, did you try any like hard annies with them at all?
Yeah. So this, again, Cicada is I would, and it's funny because of the flight numbers. This is why they're arbitrary, but I would say the Cicada is like easier to encourage to go right than the Shadowfax, although it does not appear that way. And it may be a plastic difference too. I'm not really super familiar with all of Prodigy's plastic and like the stability versus, maybe 400 or 750. But definitely the Cicada, if I gave them enough Annie, it's definitely going to turn right. I could, if I really wanted to and wanted to be like obnoxious, I could probably roll the Cicada. I didn't really, and truth be told, I didn't try that like aggressive angle with the Shadowfax because wasn't my goal. But you probably could get both to that angle if you really wanted to. It would be hard though. You'd have to be a little outrageous.
Okay. So distance wise, I know you're sitting in like the 320 ish range, right? For backhand. So distance wise, what were you getting out of these discs?
330. Like I could get max distance with both of them.
Wow.
Yeah, they were, and I didn't feel like I had to throw them like super hard. My first initial, and I did this, I was in the field by myself and I did this out loud because it surprised me when I threw the Shadowfax the first time, because this first time I've thrown it. It just like took off. It had so much glide. And I was like, I literally said, wow, when I threw it, because I didn't expect it to do that. I mean, really, I didn't. I mean, I expected it to be more of like either based on the flight numbers, it should have turned a little bit more, right? And I just wasn't sure what I was going to get, but it flipped up and went very far just immediately with like a little minimal effort.
Love
Cicada,
that.
Cicada, I like too. I think the cicada, again, it was the same distance. Actually, I think I threw the cicada farther multiple times. But again, I don't feel like I have to throw either one of these very hard, and maybe the 6 glide versus the 5 glide on the cicada, I'd probably agree with.
Okay. So you said you didn't have a clear winner in your head, but talking through it, seeing Tyler's bag, hearing kind of the angle selection he's doing, things like that. Is there one that stands out, or do you think it's more of seeing what Tyler is more intrigued by? What's your stance on it? You're our disc testing expert, Brad.
Yeah, metal detection expert, Gary
we
Drayton.
trust.
So this is tough because I think what Tyler really needs is he needs the mind bender of fairways for him.
You nailed it.
That's what I'm kind of looking for here. I'm worried, Tyler. I think you have a little bit more power than me. I'm worried that the cicada is going to be too understable for you, and it's going to bump into the Leopard 3.
Okay,
but I think the Shadowfax is both going to have the utility for you, like the Mindbender, and like it's going to go very straight for you. Flip up, go straight, and it will maybe go a little right, but it won't unless you really encourage it to or you misthrow it. Also, when I threw them both on forehand, I really liked the forehand flight of the Shadowfax because again, it was pretty effortless to flip up, or if I wanted to give it like an extreme Hyzer line, it would just kind of hold that for me. Again, you have a more powerful forehand than I do, but I think that is probably, I always want to recommend something that doesn't just have one shot. I want it to have multiple uses. So I think Shadowfax is winner today for you. I think that's going to really fit that slot, like kind of like your Mindbender's acting for you, but also give you some other shot selection. You can use it. And it might actually, I don't think it's going to hurt the Leopard 3 at all. Other than the fact of, hey, I like this better. Maybe I don't even need the Leopard 3 at all.
Yeah.
Because you like to manipulate angles. So this might help you do that. And then maybe it might push the TL3 closer to your Sexton Firebird.
Okay, cool.
So I think it's going to like kind of be Moses here and just like part the sea right there and just give you like a clear option for your fairways.
Love it.
Come on. So Tyler, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot, man. I mean, you nailed it, Brad. I need a Mindbender fairway driver. So I'm willing to try anything, man. I got to figure this out.
Yeah. And I will say one thing I really appreciate about your bag is sometimes when people come in and they'll be like, they'll have their bag. We're trying to find a disc to suggest for them, but it's like they only bag DD and like Discraft or something like that. And you're like, all right, cool. But I love looking at your bag and it's like you got Discraft, Discmania, Innova, you've got Prodigy in there, Birdie, Castoplast, MVP. Like you've got it all, which let us know like, all right, we can suggest pretty much anything. Because there are some people that if we were like, hey, we're going to throw the Shadowfax your way, they'd be like, ugh, Prodigy?
This is my thing. If you wiped all the stamps and I just held the disc, if it feels good, throw it. Like, who cares who it's made by? If it feels good, man, just rip it.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you're throwing.
That's
absolutely.
That's
so if you'd be willing to come back on, Tyler, this has been a fun episode personally. So I would love to have you on to hear how Shadowfax flies for you.
I can't wait to tell you about it.
Come on. Well, we will see you in a future episode, man.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, too.
The day a new nickname was born, or not a new nickname, but an acronym of it, I'm here for it because I just refer to you as Brad most often when we're talking.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting to lean into embracing it. ABB.
Yeah, there you go. I'll respond to anything. Next contract I sign, everyone will have to call me All Business Brad. I guaranteed, no exceptions, or they're in violation of contract. No, it's cool. I'm really excited to, again, Tyler's been on other podcasts in the network, so it's always fun to bring someone on and have like again, this is a whole different venue. It's fun to talk them through something else. And I feel like he had a really well thought out bag, and I appreciate people that think out, like, just don't care. They're like, I like it, I'm going to throw it. I like that mentality. I wish I could be more like that probably. Sometimes I get stuck in a little rut and I get obsessed with like a certain brand or plastic, and I feel like I can only throw that. So also excited to find a Prodigy mold that I really like. I think I have one kind of in my catalog of like, well, if this mold makes me mad, this one's going in sort of shelf. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But yeah, man, it's hard because we have so many good discs coming in and out. We brought back so many cool exclusive USDGC discs that Discraft let us like grab before we left. We're launching those this week, and
come on,
2 of them already like replaced 2 molds in my bag. So that's
really what. Yeah. So what are they? What's
their mold? The molds are the same, but the plastic's different. So I finally took out my 1,000 rated zone because that was my thrower, and they have a Z Jawbreaker misstamped zone that we'll be releasing this week. Like that automatically went in, and then of course people probably saw Brody's Jawbreaker Z Roach.
Yeah.
And then news flash for those of you who weren't at the Hyzer Club Championship, had a really bad putting round, and I may or may not have just given away my putters in my bag because I was so mad. So I'm back. I'm a roach putter again, guys.
He's back.
He's back, and I've missed very few putts since then, so it feels good. But what I did, I bumped over the inner quarter of my understable throwing putter, which is where it should live, where I liked it in the first place. So I'm back, but it's cool because I can now have like new MVs cycled in and out, like Eclipse MVs, and like that Jawbreaker Z Roach is kind of like a straight with like a little bit overstable finish where I have to season in an Eclipse MV to get to. So I like that. So anyway, that being said, we've got a ton of cool stuff hitting the site on Friday, and it's going to be, there is ESP Jawbreaker. Yes, ESP Jawbreaker. Passions, ESP Jawbreaker Buzzes, ESP Jawbreaker Zeus's, ESP Jawbreaker Hades, Z Jawbreaker Roach, Z Jawbreaker Onyx, Z Jawbreaker Zone. We also have double stamped Mini B 20th anniversary buzzes.
Come on.
So those are sick.
Give me the wasps.
Yeah. Every time I touch that disc, I'm like, why do I not throw this? And I know why, because it's going to kick out other molds that I like, but very good. We also have a bunch of misstamped McFace discs. Yes, McFace discs. So it's going to be like 6 times zones, but with a bunch of Paul faces stamped all over them. And there's some of like the 6-time claws are like intersecting each other. They're very cool. There's going to be a whole bunch of those things. Also, the Cicada is launching today, which is Thursday when we're filming this. But I'm imagining there'll still be probably a few of the first run, so make sure you check those out. There's Prodigy going up. Halo Orbit Pures. No, Lucid Ice Orbit Pures. Yeah. So those feel incredible. Those are going up as well. FD1s, S-Line FD1s went up. We also have some Metal Flake MD3s. Okay. So there's a lot of like cool stuff that's just like kind of getting pumped into the site at the end of the week here. So make sure you check all that out. We are also launching some Foundation custom stamped disc as well, just the combo stamp, but there'll be Zone OS's, there will be Buzzes, Heats, Nukes, Z Zones, and I'm forgetting one other one. But there's multiple molds there, so check those out too.
Come on. A
lot of stuff, a lot of heat, a lot of hot fire.
Yeah, I was fully prepared, Brad, when you said that the 1,000 rated zone was not in your bag, because you might have seen that they had at Ledgestone zones with money printed in them. And I was like,
all right, hold on.
So he replaced his 1,000 rated with.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Did I go over and try to get one?
Yeah.
Yes. Was that my plan? Yes. Were they sold out? Yes. Because I mean, they had a line. There were people waiting there for hours, and I wasn't about to go do that. But I'm like, every other day they had like enough that were just kind of left over. I'm like, I'll take my chances. Well, luck was not on my side that day.
That is unfortunate. That's so funny. Like,
yeah, that was 100% what I was going to do. So yeah, you nailed it.
Oh man,
that was the next best thing.
What a time. Well, what'd you say? It was Z Jawbreaker.
Z Jaw, and then the stamp is a misstamp. It says Pro D on the top of it.
That's incredible.
So very cool.
That'll be sick. So, well, Brad, appreciate the episode. Appreciate being here and appreciate running it down. I hope that with all of this new Discraft drop-in and other awesome drops coming to the website. Make sure you check out that recently used section. It's always your friend because you're going to find a great disc while you're out there. And what do you do if it's good?
You keep it in the bag. We'll see you all next week.